Hello, welcome back to Football 301. I am your host, Nate Tice. We did it. We made it. It's week one of the NFL. We are here. We are recording this Thursday morning, so we got Thursday night football tonight. We got Friday night game. We got Saturday night college football. Then we got a full slate of Sunday, including Red Zone channel with commercials. Not that I really care, but still, it is notable. But we are here for week one, and today on Football 301, we are going to preview the slate of week one games, point out a few of the ones that we wanted to highlight, get lost in the sauce a little bit. To help me do that, every single Thursday and Sunday, we'll be recapping these games. My guy, Mr. Forverts, sitting tall over there. How you doing today,
Tallish.
Charles McDonald?
Tallish. Yeah, I had to go on IR for a day. But you know, we're slowly getting in season shape over here, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, you started the season on PUP. You know,
yes.
you were, we claimed you off. You're getting your back up PUP. IR designated for return. No. First time. Good to see you. I'm very excited to do this. It's going to be so much fun. Every week, we're going to be deep diving into a few of the games. We have a little different name for it this time. We'll have a Haas fight of the week as well. Maybe an offensive, defensive line battle that we really wanted to point out. We'll also have a little bit of a Slop Watch later on this show. You know, a game that's a little under the radar that we think is interesting. You know, you want to fill out that fourth screen on the multi-view and keep an eye on it. That's that game right there. And at the end of the show, we have a lock of the week, something that we are going to predict and point out, and we'll keep track of that throughout the season. Producer Stone is very keen on doing that and rubbing my face in it like a dog that went to the bathroom in the living room. Also, check out the Yahoo Sports Network, our brand new streaming TV channel. Yahoo Sports Network is available to stream on leading fast services. It's also streaming live 24/7 on yahoosports.tv, where you can catch all the shows on your phone or on your browser. Plenty of good stuff there, so make sure to check out the Yahoo Sports Network. All right, Charles McDonald, we're here. It's time to get lost in the sauce. We did call this deep dive. We're going a little name change here. We're getting lost in the sauce. This is where we go into three of our favorite games of the weeks, break down offense, defense, matchups, players, all the good stuff here, scheme highlights, something you might want to keep an eye on so you can point it out to your buddy at the bar and seem very, very smart when you do so. There's a lot of juicy games on week one. It was actually pretty hard to parse through this. You know, everybody's 0-0. There's nobody I'm throwing out yet. It's very exciting. The entire NFC, I could have made a case for 14 teams to make the playoffs. But we're starting with an AFC, NFC brouhaha here. Texans at Rams Sunday. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites. Wow. That is interesting. I believe this game is going to be a nice little story. Yeah, some strengths on this team. We have some interesting injuries with Matthew Stafford and his back. Seems all good to go. Alaric Jackson, left tackle for the Rams, seems to be playing. So we're going to start first when the Rams have the ball, because that's, I think, more interesting to me. We got the Texans defense with their juicy defensive line, great back end. Charles, when you're watching this game, we're watching this side of the ball, I should say, when the Rams have the ball, Texans are on defense. What's drawing your attention? What are you focusing on? What do you think the keys of this side of the ball are going to be?
I think the biggest key for the Rams this week, and not just the Rams, like any team playing the Texans this season, is like just getting plays off the ground, basically, because they're so disruptive in the front. And I think that's why this line being in favor of the Rams is kind of, I guess, a little surprising to me, because I just look at Will Anderson, Neil Hunter, and how they're able to get up the field versus an offensive line that's, you know, not great and banged up too, with a quarterback that's got a worse back than mine. It's kind of a tough draw, like just to imagine like that particular aspect going well. I think that even like in the run game is probably going to be a big it's crucial for that offensive line to kind of get going, because we've seen it before. We even saw it in the playoffs at times against the Chiefs last year. Like when that defense cranks it up and they can get after the passer, and then you got Derek Stingley on the back end and a couple of talented DBs, like it can get suffocating really, really quick. So I think that's the main thing for me. Just seeing like if they can get these plays off the ground against Will Anderson, against Neil Hunter, against guys like Stingley on the outside, Lasser in the slot. Like it's a really, really talented defense. And I wonder if the Rams have the horses up front to kind of keep them at bay.
in the weirdest way, it's like, the Rams, they got some interesting skill guys and Puka Nacua and Davante Adams now and Kyron Williams. They got some cool tight ends. I think the best way to go about this is just make it ugly. Just keep jabbing them. Don't take the bait. Don't drop back deep. Don't throw the ball in harm's way. Just make it ugly, 4 or 5 yard gains, and just dare them creep the safeties up and maybe hit them over the top or maybe hit something as you start affecting the safeties. I know the main weakness of this Texans defense last year was explosive runs, which is one of those things that's if you can do that, do it. But it's easier for me to say that, get some explosive runs against this defense than actually to do it. And the Rams' run game by design is a lot of those jabs. It's duo. It's a very at-you run. And Kyron Williams I really like Kyron Williams. Great 3-down back, great protection, good hands and everything. He's not the most explosive runner. This is all part of their offensive system. This is part of their identity, and then they try to get the explosive passes off of it. So, and that way I almost want see them ugly it up. But this is the exact game why you do sign Davante Adams, because what do the Texans do on every passing down? Man coverage. They're going to trot out their awesome DB or their awesome corners and DBs and press you up and see if you can beat them. And that's what the Rams struggled with last year. Stafford was bottom 10 against man coverage last year. Davante Adams was still a top 12 receiver in all the underlying stats that we look at against man coverage. So this is why you signed him. So I think it's a huge Davante Adams game. I'm just saying statistically, but very important to win some of those one-on-ones. That's kind of where do you gauge Davante Adams now, Charles? I actually kind of we've kind of briefed toed around him, and I know that's kind of Matt's lane sometimes, but what do you think about Davante Adams now?
I mean, I thought last year he was still a good player. I thought he still showed a lot of athleticism, and when he and Rodgers are on the same page, it works. They just, weren't on the same page very often. The Jets weren't very good in general on offense, but I like the fit a lot more before the Stafford back stuff started popping up,
right.
Because, and I think that's kind of the thing for the whole offense, because it's not it's not like he's going to be out here, evading pressure or getting away from guys all too often. And I just kind of if Stafford's just going to be a stationary target back there, that makes me a little less excited about where Davante's opportunities could come this year. But all in all, I'm still in on him. I think it was worth bringing him in and seeing what he's got. The idea of Davante and Puka as number 1 and 2, I think it's kind of perfect, stylistically. But it's the boogeyman. The health of the quarterback. It kind of sucks because it's overshadowing everything. But obviously, it is that big of a deal. If Jimmy Garoppolo plays 12 games for this team, that's just not going to go well for them. So you need Stafford in there and healthy, and hopefully he can get through this game, because the Texas front just crazy. I mean, even when they started to turn it on last year, because we were a little concerned that maybe weak down the middle of their defense last year, and at times they were, but also it kind of just didn't matter because they were so good at just causing disruptive plays and shutting down the pass that I think they make things real tight in this game, because you don't have the threat of the quarterback, running around with his legs or doing bootlegs and stuff like that. It's just straight 4-man rush. Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter. Can you beat C+ tackles? Yeah, probably.
Probably. Two guys that I think both were top 10 in pressure rate. Daniil Hunter had almost a Micah Parsons pressure rate last year. So, last little they're unbelievable. And Rob Havenstein is still a solid right tackle, but it's just that I don't think Rob. I know Rob from Wisconsin days. I don't think he would be mad when I said, well, I think Daniil and Will Anderson are a little better than you, Rob. It's just, I think you're holding on to your hat. And that's why I think they try and maul them. They're the Texans also like to be in nickel. They like to do 5 DBs every down. So do you see some 3rd down runs from the Rams? Again, do they just try and ugly it up? More tight end looks. Maybe this is a good game to see what I think is what they're going to lean into with Colby Parkinson and Terrence Ferguson, who they drafted, and Higbee, maybe go some tight end looks. So it's a good test for both teams. I know that boogeyman, like you said, the back. I feel bad because all Rams discussions for the last month for me have just turned to that, and I want to focus so much more on the team. Might seem crossing routes to Puka might be another answer for them. So fun little styles makes fights here, and personnel makes fights here. Let's go to the other side of the ball. I think just as Stafford's back has kind of overshadowed every Rams conversation, the Texans offensive line has kind of overshadowed every Texans conversation, even the optimism we have about a lot of the parts and pieces that they have on this team. But going against a Rams team, a Rams defense that has a pass rush, but maybe I'd say a question mark on the back end. I mean, they're players that have proven themselves already a little bit. They've played, but it's just, I'm not sure how high they can get. So how do you think the Texans can test them? Do you think their offensive line can hold up? What are you thinking about maybe their new identity going into this season?
Man. Well, we like Ariante Ursi, the left tackle they drafted out of Minnesota. That's he looked solid.
He was easily on your big board. He was in your top 50, right?
Yeah, he was top 40 player.
Top 40, he was top 40 for both of us. Yep.
But you still look at it like, okay, what's the highlight of the offensive line? Rookie, second round, left tackle. Okay.
That's it.
That's it. I know. Because we could be high on Ursery, but I mean, there's always a scenario where rookie years go bad for offensive tackles. So I don't know how much stock to put into that, but I look at some of their stats on offense last year. 31st in overall success rate, 28th in EPA per rush, 32nd in success rate on rushes, 31st in red zone success rate. Did they do enough to fix that? No. But I still find myself believing, like, you got CJ Stroud, man. Like, I still thought he played pretty well last year given the circumstances. So I don't want to be all the way out on this offense and what they could do. But I look at the offensive line, we're dealing with Nick Chubb at this point after multiple knee surgeries, at the end of his career. Dameon Pierce is someone who they gave up on years ago. Joe Mixon, maybe we'll never see him play again. I don't know. The way they were talking about that seemed kind of scary. So I don't think they'll be able to run the ball again. But, the wide receiver room looks okay. This is kind of interesting matchup from a standpoint of, like, it's kind of like soft offensive line as far as run game goes. It's kind of like soft offensive line versus soft defensive line, because the Rams, like, they're not the stoutest group up front. They're trying to get upfield, so it's like a pillow fight in the trenches to see if CJ Stroud survives this one.
And that's what's funny is just that, I know the Texans, they of course have a new offensive coordinator, Nick Haley, who has a Rams background and a Patriots background. And I think they're going to try and do the exact same thing I said with the Rams in their run game, be like at you and physical, but it's like, they don't really have the Clydesdales for that. They have kind of, some gimpy thoroughbreds or retired thoroughbreds that are at the farm right now, as opposed to some Budweiser horses. It's, like you say, Ursery, I do like Ursery a lot, and he looked good in this preseason, but I think ideally your rookie left tackle is your third or fourth best lineman as a rookie, not potentially your best one. It's a weak link system, so that's always scary. Ed Ingram starting at guard, and I think Ed Ingram, when he was with the Vikings, was one of the worst guards in the NFL. Laken Tomlinson is kind of based on his surroundings. He can be fine. They're high on Jake Andrews, and as what he can kind of solidify everything. And I think just more than anything, and Tyus Howard's fine. It's actually pretty good now. When he's healthy. Still, I think it's three. Yeah, when he's healthy, right? I know. He actually might be better at guard. He might be better at guard too. So that's the thing too. I think ideally they want him at right guard, and they wanted Blake Fisher to win at right tackle, and then Blake Fisher just had a bad preseason. And I still have some Fisher stock. I'm not totally out on him, but the preseason was not encouraging. But like you said, they're going against Jared Verse. They're going to get some real heat on the other side. Byron Young, Kobe Turner is a good interior pass rusher. He might have a big day. But like you say, they're built to get up the field. They're built to create havoc and get turnovers and create sacks and TFLs and everything. They're not really built to hold up against, jabs in the face and just over and over and over. They don't really have the strongest chin, I would say. And their linebackers are a little, I like Omar Spites, but, I'm realistic about what he can be. And then I think the back end is very opportunistic. Cam Curl and Cameron Kitchens are both very opportunistic players, but they're not like freaks on the back end that can really, solidify stuff on the back end. They're more guys that help you go on a run, this is why the Rams are built this way. They know this. They're not saying we're going to beat you up and go one. The Texans can go one-on-one every single time on defense. The Rams are going to go, let's get tricky. Hopefully the quarterback holds onto the ball and then our pass rush gets there. Like, that's their concoction this year. At least that's how I read it. It's how it was last year. So I'm very excited to see Stroud. Like, Matt and I talked about this yesterday on the fantasy forecast. Very excited to see Stroud controlling the offense, maybe, pointing stuff out. He gets to change protections now, and I think he's going to handle it very, very, very well. If anyone doesn't know about CJ Stroud, he is probably one of the most cerebral players in the NFL, one of the smartest players in the NFL, and the dude just loves football. He's scouting college prospects for fun. He's not getting paid by anybody to do it. He just does it for fun. Stroud's one of my favorite players, just personality wise. The guy just loves football and loves his teammates too. He'll hype them up.
You can see when he used to debate Micah Parsons about football stuff. He'd be like, bro, Steve would be like, bro, you're not watching this stuff. Or, getting real in depth about some random
trying to be nice. He was like, yeah. I know.
Sicko, bro.
He's a Drake May guy as well, CJ Stroud. He gave him the stamp of approval. He gets it. No, I'm just very excited. And I like the receiver room for the Texans. Nico Collins is a top 5 guy. I think he's going to have a huge year. He was my offensive player of the year pick, by the way. I thought that was fun. I thought Matt was going to do that too. I kind of, took the flag from him, Nico Collins. But I think the other guys, the young guys, I'm interested to see how they use them. Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk's older, but then Jalen Noel, who I really like, see how they use those guys. I think they might use a bunch of 11 personnel, which, it's got some Rams background, just the tight ends and stuff. So really interested to see kind of Texans, what are you? Because the offensive line is how far they go. I think everybody's in the same boat. Oh, yeah, this is a playoff team because of the quarterback, the receivers, and the defense. But the offensive line's crap. They only can go so far. So this is a nice little game for them to start the season off with, which you kind of mentioned. So like I said, the spread, Rams -3.5 at home. Which way are you going for our first prediction of the NFL season, Charles? Well, first real one. I think that we get the tangible results with.
If I could slam the under here, if betting was something I still did, I'd be slamming the under here. But I think I'm gonna go with Texans +3.5. I think they get the win. I just don't like week 1 Stafford. Off of everything we've heard from the past month, he was in the back to tank outside the Rams facility trying to heal himself. So I'm gonna go with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter taking over in this one.
I'm leaning the same way. I think this is gonna be a fun game. I think it's gonna be like you say. I lean the under too. I think there's gonna be it's come down a couple big plays, but it's just gonna be a lot of body blows in this game. Whether it's not only just Stafford's back, but just the run games of both teams. I think it's just gonna be some sacks on both sides. Some big plays for the defense. So I'm with you, but I'm leaning towards the Texans even on the road, just to at least cover. I'm not saying that they'll win, but I think they at least cover this game. It's very, very close. I think I lean Rams win. Obviously, the 3.5 point favorites, that's easy, but Texans cover, Rams win. That's my first prediction of the season. Nice little way to straddle it like the roads of Colossus. All right, we're going to take our first break, and we're going to come back with a few more games, including our Haas fight of the week. All right, we are back, and it's our Haas fight of the week. Lions at Packers, another Sunday battle. This is NFC North, formerly the NFC Central division, near and dear to my heart. Black and blue division, here we go. Lions, Packers, these offensive lines. I really didn't even have to go one side. Sometimes we just go one side of the ball for Haas fight of the week. This is both sides of the ball. We got some good offensive lines. We got some interesting defensive lines, some good defensive lines. A player that's been in the news lately. So we'll start with that side of the ball. Lions have the ball with their offensive line with a couple stars on it, and a star and a couple remade pieces on the interior trio. And you got the Packers defense adding Micah Parsons, of course, from the Cowboys. So when the Lions have the ball in this game, Charles, what's grabbing your attention? Which matchup of this Haas fight grabbing your attention?
Oh man, I'm turning to my first forwards piece of the year, and I was kind of going over some of the NFC North stuff, and I'm looking like it's Micah Parsons' back injury, and I'm like, bro, I don't care about that at all. I don't know, I just don't care about that. Being 35 with a back injury is different than being 26 with a back injury, right? And it's Micah Parsons, so I'm not really too concerned about that. Man, they were on ESPN this morning. They were showing clips of Parsons at practice and like him going through the hoops and like doing the bend on the pass rush stuff. I'm like, this is what you look like with a hurt back. You look like a damn wide receiver out there. So I'm really not too concerned about that. And to me, like that's obviously the matchup, not just for the storyline, but we know how Jared Goff kind of struggles when he gets under pressure sometimes. It's got a new interior offensive line. We've talked about that. Frank Ragnow retired due to injury. You've got Taylor Ratledge starting, Chris Mahogany, who we like, but was a 6th-round pick last year. So there's a lot going on in the interior. So if I'm the Packers, man, I'm putting Micah Parsons over Taylor Decker and fight for your life. Like that's right. I think the game plan has to be because if they don't get pressure, which I don't know, I kind of just don't see how they won't be able to now that you have Micah Parsons. I think it could get scary with these wide receivers against these cornerbacks. If they can get on the outside, where you have Jameson Williams or even Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot, because we know he's really tough to guard. So I think just getting pressure on Goff will be the key, and it's going to be the key for the Lions all season, because if it's blocked up right, he can shred you. If things are up in the middle field, we know that if it's a good picture, he can get it done. But when it's muddy, he really struggles. And I know people are going to say, "Oh, but look at his numbers versus pressure versus blitz last year." And there, I know that to me that was just more of a function of ecosystem more than anything. And with a new interior offensive line, it's going to be a lot harder this year.
I've been struggling with the Lions, and we did our preview show yesterday, and I had them missing the playoffs. I'm kind of regretting it, not going to lie, Lions fans, because I think I've been underrating your defense a little bit. If we'll get to that side of the ball in a second, but really just the offense too. It's just that, well, got to see what the offensive coordinator is all about, and John Morton. But just looking at the offensive line, I like Mahogany. He still was a 6th-round pick. Graham Glasgow, who is probably better at center than guard, is just not Frank Ragnow. So even if I think he's fine, it's just that you're going from what I would consider probably the 2nd-best center in the game to a fine center. That's still a drop-off. So maybe Glasgow, Mahogany are kind of interchangeable at guard. And then Taint Ratledge, who had nice had a nice preseason and everything. They tried him at center too. That didn't go well. But he's still a rookie guard, day 2 guard. And that's just kind of where some of this interest lies, because Micah Parsons will move across the formation. He can line up on the interior and pick the guy. And that's what they call him, the fish. Defensive line coaches, who's the fish that we're hooking. So they're going to watch this tape, and they're probably, if I'm looking at it, they're probably going over the center and the left guard or the right guard. And they're just going to kind of figure out some things with number 1 now, because Micah Parsons is wearing number 1, not number 11, which reminds me of, I'm going to repeat this, Justin Mosqueda, our guy Justice from the Acme Packing Company. Did you see his tweet? Said, it's like Dallas fans. His podcast is kind of annoying. And then it says Green Bay fans, take the number of the guy who the stadium was named after and has been used in 99 years. We'll do anything. Just to give Micah Parsons number 1. It's so true, though.
Doesn't matter.
She was like, yeah, sure, whatever you want.
What do you want, Micah? You want to wear a jersey that says X on it? Go for it, man. Whatever you need, pal. Because
whatever you want. It's
game changing. It's just such a game changer move, man. And they
league changing move,
right? League changing. And the Packers, like they've been setting themselves up for years now to get rid of Kenny Clark. Like that wasn't even like a big move in the grand scheme of things, because they were probably going to get rid of him after the season. We've talked about Davante Wyatt and I forget the other guy's name that they have on the interior.
Oh, Carl Brooks. Carl Brooks, yes, right. So that was their contingency plan, and honestly, we're talking about nose tackles here, right? You don't need to like break the bank on those guys. Just find someone who can kick some ass in there like every couple plays, and then we'll get after it on 3rd down. And now you have Micah Parsons, who gets a rush with Rashawn Gary. Like that's such a good pass rush, man. I like the spine in that defense is so damn good. It's just if you can, you just kind of have to hope that you can beat the Lions up enough up front that maybe it doesn't turn into a finesse game, because I do think that that's where it can get a little spooky, because they do still have the skill talent, and especially like skill talent in space, where Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, we saw Tesla in the preseason. Like those guys are athletic dudes that can break stuff down in space. So you gotta beat them up front, I think, if you're Green Bay. So I looked up right now. I looked up Micah Parsons versus Lions offensive line stats and matchups. Okay. You and I are in agreement. Penei Sewell is a top 5 offensive lineman, period, any position. Like top 3.
Not better than Lane Johnson, though. Don't say that.
No, I know.
Don't say
I know. That's
Dwayne
why I was being
Johnson,
safe
though.
there.
Yeah.
That's what I was being safe. I already took some pot shot at Lyman earlier this week. Yeah. So, okay, they've matched up 30 times. Penei Sewell versus Micah Parsons. Penei Sewell has allowed 6 pressures. They've matched up 25 times one-on-one and has allowed 6 one-on-one pressures. That's 24% one-on-one pressure rate. I can tell you this off the top of my head because I've repeated the stat 500 times. Cam Robinson led the league in pressure rate last year at 21%. So Micah Parsons turns Penei Sewell into Cam Robinson. That's how good Micah Parsons is. Like, that's like, I just can't reiterate this enough. He wins against the other elite guys. Against Taylor Decker, 12 one-on-one matchups, 5 one-on-one pressures, 2 one-on-one sacks. He's lined up against Taylor Decker 12 times one-on-one and has gotten 2 sacks. That's ridiculous. Like that. So it's like, that's the matchup. And that's what's so scary. It's a great game for the Packers defensive tackles because I think everyone's in agreement that maybe their weakness is against the run. So what does Davante Wyatt look like? He's now in a bigger role. How's our guy Brooks look? Do you know there's 3 Georgia defensive tackles on this team, by the way? Warren Brinson, Azir Stackhouse.
Oh, I didn't realize Stackhouse was here.
He had a nice preseason, and so Stackhouse is pretty good against the run, right?
I don't know. Well, he was until last year. Last year was by far the worst season he's ever played. I don't know what the hell happened.
Interesting.
But like in the years prior to that, he was always good when he came in relief duty, and it felt like maybe the extended role was maybe a little bit too much for him. But man, he's a good player in punches for sure.
And for here, he's probably just here to muck it up. Like, that's what this team needs. That's the irony of it, is it's actually what the Cowboys have needed too, which is so funny that Parsons is now going on another team that doesn't have a beefy defensive tackle. So I think Stackhouse starts getting some run because just body type wise, they need that guy because Brooks is a gap shooter. Wyatt's kind of, I'm not saying finesse in a bad way, but just more like he's not like a guy that's going to eat blocks. Like, I'm not putting him at nose tackle to eat blocks. So going against a Lions reworked interior trio we talked about, I think that's just kind of a interesting little matchup for both teams there. Also, my last thing, a little parting shot at Kenny Clark because I wrote about this. So this whole talking about Kenny Clark's going to help the run, and he is disruptive. Don't get me wrong, he is disruptive, but he's not a block eater, and that's what we're misconstruing with his addition to the Cowboys. I know Jerry Jones trying to sell us something, but I looked it up, and over the last 2 years, so not even including last season, but 23 and 24, his run stop rate, so that's a successful tackle for, a tackle that leads to a unsuccessful play for the offense. It was 8.8% over the last 2 years. Okay, what does that mean? So I looked it up. How many qualifying defense tackles? There was 25 over the last 2 years. He ranked 21st in that statistic. 22nd is Osa Odigizua, his new teammate, another gap shooter. And this is what you and I keep going at. They just got 2 gap shooters and 2 guys that go rogue. Right. So they didn't help themselves at all. At all. This is eye test and stats. So
look, if you're going to go gap shooting route, who's pretty good at shooting gaps? Micah Parsons.
Maybe we should lean into that and pay him and build our whole defense around him.
Yeah,
I know. We just can't help ourselves. We're talking Lions, Packers have to take a shot. All right, the other side of the ball, though, this one's interesting, too, is Packers offensive line, which is a lot of good. It's a lot of solid from left to right. Rashad Walker, Aaron Banks, Elgin Jenkins, who moved to center, Sean Ryan, I always mess up his name, Zach Tom at right tackle. But a lot of solid, just good, and they have some depth. They have their former first-round pick can back up a few spots. They might rotate at left tackle, who knows. The Lions have some great beef in the interior. They're going to miss Aleem McNeil, but you got DJ Reader, Tyleek Williams, Roy Lopez. You got Aiden Hutchinson on the outside as well. But anything else on this side of the ball? But I think this is also kind of a continuation of the Haas fight. Like, the Haas fight's this entire game. It's both sides of the ball. Yes. But anything else on this? Any matchups that you're looking forward to?
I think you could say that this, as a whole, like this trench matchup is more interesting than the flip side, because I think there's just a higher collection of good players here where, where you're looking at,
it's a lot of good.
When you're looking at the other side's like, we got Micah Parsons, Penei Sewell. We'll see about the interior line on both sides. Some guys still need to prove themselves, even if we like it. But here it's like, okay, well, we know the Packers offensive line, like at their best, is a good unit. And we know the Detroit defensive line at their best when they're healthy is also a good unit. And unfortunately, they got ravaged by injuries up front last year. And it's not just Aiden Hutchinson, it's not just Liam McNeil, also depth guys like Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, who they brought over trying to develop, who got hurt and then had to retire. So these are that was huge for me. You're talking 4 guys off your defensive line right there. That's a huge chunk of your room. So to get those guys back, or are starting to get in the motion of getting those guys back and up to full speed, I think it just changes the complexion of this defense so much, because we all love Aaron Glenn, but there's just nothing you can do at the end of the season when you're that hurt up front, and you're also hurt in the back end too. So it's kind of like a fresh start for this Lions group, and I think if they're looking good and they're healthy, this is a real hoss fight, because Aiden Hutchinson's back. I don't think Ali McNeil is back yet, is he? Because he tore his.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's not back yet either.
He's gonna be, but he's probably gonna be another month maybe. Right,
but still, that's why you spend first round pick on a defensive tackle, Tyler Williams. And they have the depth now to at least go toe to toe and give their offensive line, give their back seven a chance, to stand tall against what's a tough ass Packers run game. I mean, I was kind of unsure when I was watching the old Raiders film of Josh Jacobs, like, this is really bad. I don't know. We'll see exactly how much it's offensive line's fault when he gets to Green Bay. Oh, okay. It's like all their fault. Guy, Josh Jacobs still a really good player. They were 3rd in success rate on rushing attempts last year, 4th in red zone success rate. So that's what's going to be, kind of the basis of this offense. I think the basis of this game as far as who wins or who loses, because I feel like they're pretty even as far as like secondary to wide receivers go. It's kind of like a bunch of like B players, I think, on both sides, and the trenches are where they're going to kind of find their bread.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It feels like a front seven versus a offensive line and tight end battle, all the way, and just some strength too. Like Reeder and Tyleik Williams and Roy Lopez aren't going to get a bunch of sacks. That's why you want Aleem McNeil back. Like, he's so disruptive. But these guys are all maulers, and so it's just going to be like. And the Packers want to create a bunch of double teams. They run physical runs, a lot of gap scheme stuff, duo, and everything. So they just create double teams. So it's just going to be these battles. Everybody just fighting for space. So like I'm very excited to see kind of how it plays out. Also, shout out to Lions kind of rotational edge, Al-Qaeda Muhammad, who might have to play because Davenport gets hurt every single year. But Muhammad has had some nice moments. My son Jack screaming, didn't really like that shout out. But but no, I do think that just a lot of good talent. I agree with you. This side of the ball has just got a lot more sure things than as opposed to the other side, which is more interesting, I would say. All right. So the Packers are 1.5 point favorites at Lambeau Field. How do you think this one plays out, Chuck?
I think the Packers win. In the one game sample that we'll have where everyone's kind of new and you're just rolling off the bus from training camp and playing, I think this is kind of where the elite talent shines. I think Micah Parsons has a big game to kind of drag him over the top towards the end.
Yeah, I know this sounds like basic old guy way to look at this. Whoever's the home team, I think, wins this game. So that's the Packers in my mind, and not the weather and everything. Goff doesn't have to worry about the weather. I know that's a thing too, but that's nothing better than Lambeau week 1. As a former Vikings fan, that was always much better than Lambeau week 17. Lambeau week 15. That was, week 1 was a lot better weather and everything. So I'm with you. I'm going Packers, and I think they cover. I think it'll be a very tight game, but I think this is just going to be such a fist fight. And I'm excited to see what kind of, I'm excited to see the new Lions and their new version with the new coordinators, but I'm also just seeing what the Packers' next step is, because I think, along with everybody, I think they're shooting for a Final Four or Super Bowl finalist type of team. All right, next game with two juggernauts, two sure thing juggernauts. This is the Ravens at the Bills. The Bills are 1.5 point favorites. Sunday night football. We got great night games throughout the weekend. We'll start with when the Ravens have the ball, because this is the two defending MVPs as well. Ravens have the ball against a Bills defense. What are you focusing on? Are you a little hesitant about how the Bills can maybe slow down this Ravens offense, Charles?
Oh yeah, I'd be pretty scared if I was a Buffalo fan. I don't know. Like dude, they were terrible on defense to close the season last year. Just awful. And even if you go back to that playoff game where Lamar had the 2 fumbles, the Mark Andrews miscues. That's 4 things. And they still scored enough points to be in position to win that game at the end. And in the second half, buzzsaw mode. Like the Bills couldn't get a stop to save their lives in the second half. But for the Ravens, they did the Ravens thing and they kind of pulled themselves out of the game, as they tend to do from time to time. But man, this offense, I don't know if it's fair to say it should be better than last year, but I definitely have more confidence in it than last year, because last year I was like, I don't know about this offensive line. And still the offensive line, I think it's still kind of just an okay unit, but okay, you got Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, like 2 players who can kind of overcome that. And especially when those guys are working in tandem together, like the Steelers playoff game, when, they're running the option stuff with Lamar and Derrick Henry, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how you decide to play it, because people are like, oh, the Steelers, they should have scraped the exchange. They should have done this. I was like, man, it doesn't matter. Okay. You're going to get a block on someone, and then it's Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry one-on-one with like a DB in the open field. There's no scheme. There's nothing you can draw up on the X and O's that's going to help you in that situation. So that's like the ideal place to be when you're in offense. Like, oh man, I don't know what we can do. Let's just give it to Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry. And now I think the passing game, you have more confidence that maybe some of these guys can step up and be consistent. We talked a lot about Rashad Bateman this summer. To get him a contract extension, I think if you're a casual fan and you just look at his stats, you're like, why do they keep paying him all this money? It's like, because he's a good player, man. It's a really good player. He's explosive down the field, just so good after the catch. Just he's so close, and they see it, right? That's why they keep giving him the extensions.
Yep.
And now you're in a spot where you got DeAndre Hopkins. See how much he has left in the tank, but at least like that's a good pairing with what you already have in Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. I know people were tough on Mark Andrews too, saying they should cut him after that, but he's still a productive player, and it doesn't seem like Isaiah Likely has actually like stepped up to take over his seat yet. This is a good offense. It's really, really good offense. I don't see how they finished like below top 5, and I'm still like nervous enough about the Bills defense. I don't expect them to be, as bad as they were towards the end of the last season. Only like partially because it really is kind of like outlier bad, like where it's hard to be that bad every single week, which is what they managed to pull off last year, in like the last month of the season. But I don't think they have enough at all here to really, really slow down the Ravens attack if they don't shoot themselves in the foot. Like I think this potentially has shootout potential if Josh Allen can get it going.
Yeah, I 2 awesome offenses. I think it was our unanimous top 2 in some way, shape, or form. No, but that's the Bills have aspirations. They're hunting for the Super Bowl, and I think their offense is geared up for it. And it's just I really respect Bobby Babich, and I really respect Sean McDermott, what they can put out there, scheme-wise, how they can coach up guys. Christian Benford's turned into one of the better corners in the game. Teron Johnson is a really good slot player. They got a cool front now. Like this defense likes to rotate guys a bunch up front. They got a bunch of young guys. They signed a bunch of vets. 2 of them are suspended, but we'll deal with them in a few weeks. But they still got Joey Bosa, and who's still productive when he's on the field. He'll get hurt at some point this year, but he's not hurt now. Daquan Jones is playing, and he can really help eat up blocks. It's just that this defense likes to play light. Like Teron Johnson is a starter. There's slot for him. Like he plays 90-something% of their snaps. And you're going against the Ravens, who will trot out Patrick Ricard and trot out tight ends and trot out beefy boy looks. And then, so that's always the classic, like, how does a nickel defense hold up against like an I formation? The Bills have figured out ways to do it because Johnson's a badass and is willing to scrap in there, but it's just a natural advantage that some of these kind of beefier offenses like the Ravens have. But yeah, it's just more the back end too. And we think the Ravens are a run first team, all this running stuff, but Lamar is going to test the back end over and over again. He throws digs and go balls and scrambling. So that's where safeties are supposed to come in. And those are question marks for me, man. those safeties, Matt Milano's health. Matt Milano, healthy a couple years ago, is an all-pro, but he just keeps getting banged up. He's a little undersized. So it's just one of these things where they just are missing something that I can't kind of be like, yeah, I feel really good about this. Feel really good about the offense, which we'll get to. But just this defense is kind of missing. Like, they're starting Trey White, I love Trey White, but he's not Trey White from a few years ago. And maybe this game isn't the game that gets punished, but that's still something that's going to hang over their heads. I mean, there's a lot of teams with corner too, but yeah,
I get worried about this defensive line too, man. Like, it's Ed Oliver, good player. Yeah. Right. Because if one player gets hurt, or not even hurt, you rotate guys, right? So at some point, there's going to be TJ Sanders and Deion Walker on the field together against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Right. I mean, I like him, but hey, I got to give myself some breathing room on that one this week. And even TJ Sanders, like I liked his tape, but he's a finesse guy. Dude, you're going to get steamrolled potentially. I don't. Teams. Yeah. I look at this front seven versus this like specific offense, and I'm like, man, there's a chance we see what happened in the second half of the AFC title game again, where it feels like Derrick Henry's getting 11 yards every time he touches the ball. But ultimately the Ravens are just gonna have to do what they need to do and focus on themselves and not do the stupid turnover stick. Because when you look, you just compare player to player from Bills offense or Bills defense to Ravens offense. I think it's pretty clear Baltimore's more talented, but they gotta go out and execute. We know this team, we know how talented Lamar Jackson, we know how talented Derrick Henry is, and it almost feels like, well, I don't want to say this game doesn't matter because I think Baltimore wins this game, but you got to do it in January. It feels crazy to say that in August.
I know that's the real test. What your final version? Yeah, this is your opening season form. Your final 6 weeks form is completely different usually, or refangled in some way. So I totally agree with you. Then the Bills, they do this every year, and even our guy Barnwell wrote about this. It's like you say that most times turnover luck kind of comes crashing down, but every year like the Bills finish like top 7 in turnovers. That's their style. Like they're bend but don't break. They're going to take some punches in this game, but what they say is, can you keep being successful? Can you do it 50 times against us, 30 times against us? We bet you can't. We bet we will catch you once or catch you twice. That is their philosophy. So they hope maybe they can create some turmoil up front. It's Lamar Jackson, though. It's not Tua, it's not old Aaron Rodgers, it's Lamar. So that it's a little bit of a different concoction maybe for what their defense is going to be. But I totally agree with you. Flipping on other side of the ball, 2 units that we are both extremely high on. Got the Bills offense, who was my number 1 offense. And I know you had them top 2 as well, at the very least. Going against a Ravens defense that pretty much consensus top 5 defense by everybody as well, with a very, very cool back end. But I mean, there's a lot on this side of the ball. So where do your eyes get drawn to, Charles? Because I do think, of course, there's Josh Allen, the Bills offense, but I think the Ravens defense is, if not more interesting, even on this side of the ball.
Yeah, I honestly think the playoff game that they played last January makes this game more interesting, because going into that game, the Ravens back end, it was kind of up and down as far as passing the ball goes all season. But one thing they could do all season was beat you up against the run until they got to Buffalo. Right? Until they got to Buffalo. Because going into that game, I was like, man, like this matchup seems like pretty nice for Baltimore, because if you can stop the run, then you get your DBs on wide receivers that are not as talented as your DBs. And obviously Josh Allen can make a play, but you still have to say, hey, we'll try to put Josh Allen in a spot where he has to go out and make plays without the help of his teammates. And then they kind of got pushed around against the run, which made everything a lot tougher. And I think that adds a lot of intrigue to this game, because, that's how they're going to have to survive against Baltimore's defense. You're not going to be able to match wide receiver for DB talent here, not even a little bit. So you're going to have to get physical in the front 7 and kind of push them around, which they've shown they can do. And man, like you start looking at this offensive line, like, dude, this is a big ass offensive line. And I think that I had discounted that a little bit going into the playoff game last year. But dude, Deion Dawkins, Cyrus Torrence, Spencer Brown, like David Edwards, these are massive human beings. And it plays well, right? Because like even with the quarterback run game that they figured out, like that had become really productive for them. James Cook had a breakout year, and it all starts with the guys up front. So if they can hold those guys, if they can kind of repeat what they did back in January and move them around, that gives you a lot of intrigue. Because you mentioned Baltimore secondary. They added Malachi Starks in the first round, who had a strong preseason. We all know Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, those guys are certified. Nate Wiggins has a chance for a huge breakout year. It's going to be tough to just like get open against those guys. And that's what happened in the first Baltimore-Buffalo game from last year, where like Marlon Humphrey looked like damn Darrelle Revis out there, and the entire thing just kind of shut down. And then Derrick Henry went crazy on the other side. So, offensive line play. That's the key. Can they repeat that again and move them around? Because if not, it might be a little bit of a tough day for them.
Yeah, the Bills are creating a pass-catching group that's kind of the sum of its parts. You know, it might hinder them against man coverage. We saw that last year when they played the Texans in the regular season. I think Josh Allen went like 9 for 30 or something like that. But I think in this game, you mentioned this, the Ravens pass coverage improved, but it was just so wonky sometimes. I even was pulling up the division stats from last year. I was like, yeah, just target Brandon Stevens or just target the offensive left every single time. And they were horrible and coverage-wise. And then run game-wise is throughout the year, the Ravens' run defense was so good. And then, yeah, like you said, it just kind of got picked apart by some physicality. And you know, it's all up to, not all up to, but what Roquan Smith is huge. Like, what shape is he in? You know, he basically played himself into shape last year. And I think last year with that Ravens defense, because they were so not trusting everybody in their defensive backfield, or really just their coverage guys, they ran a lot of cover two, a lot of inverted looks, a lot of funky stuff, the DMP stuff that kind of came through. Well, that's actually what this Bills offense is built to beat. Like, if you're going to run, because not a lot of teams want to run man coverage against Josh Allen. Same reason that not a lot of teams want to run man coverage against Lamar. They'll just run on you. And there's nothing more frustrating than like, oh, we locked these guys down. Ooh. And then all of a sudden there's the quarterback running for 20 yards untouched because there's nobody looking at him. And so, all right, if we play a bunch of zone, well, we got a receiving core that's, you know, pretty big and physical. It can, you know, you got Keanu Coleman, you got Josh Palmer, you got tight ends, basically that are receivers for them. You got my guy Khalil Shakir, but all those guys are good against zone. So they actually have a nice answer there, but that's what, does this DB room make the Ravens coaches go like, here's some other stuff, right? Not just cover two, not just these simulators, creepers and stuff. Like, here's this coverage you have to deal with, because they can really, I think this DB room lets you do whatever you want. In theory, like, I just think that they have like, by the end of the year, they could run any type of coverage and run it well. So kind of curious how it goes. Like, I'm curious if they throw a new pitch at him, because it's tough to stop that run game. It's tough to stop Josh Allen for 4 quarters. It might be a James Cook receiving game. Hey, Roquan, how you doing in coverage? Let's get you matched up on them. Like, you know, maybe that's a way, you know, I like that advantage. You know, that's where my mind went. So, you know, this is a big game for Travis Jones, who was my breakout player for the Ravens, their nose tackle. He can be disruptive, but, you know, he's going to have to eat some double teams in this game. And the Bills love running zone runs, getting the linebackers to overflow, and then the running backs cut against it. They're really, really good at it. So it's a lot of discipline from these Ravens linebackers. So yeah, Roquan and Trent Simpson are huge in this game, along with Marlon Humphrey, because he's going to be in the slot. So this is such a juicy matchup, this side of the ball. This is going to be really, really fun. The Bills are 1.5-point favorites. How do you think this one plays out, Charles?
I'm gonna roll with Baltimore. I think they get the regular season matchup again this time.
I'm also going with Baltimore. I think this, it's 1.5 for a favor, or 1.5 for a reason. I think that they cover, they win on the road. But like you said, that's all. These two teams know what they are. These two teams they're worried about week 1, but they're also more worried about week 19 and week 20 and week 21 and week 22. That's as much as that they're worried about, what their eyes are set towards. All right, we are going to take our last break, and then we're going to come back. A little bit of Slop Watch, our first Slop Watch of the season. See you guys in a sec. All right, we are back. Let's get into Slop Watch. Slop Watch is a game that, on paper, looks kind of crappy, looks kind of sucky. So, but we are going to point out what you need to pay attention to. We do this every week. I love the Slop Watch segment, and this week is a very, very fun one. Of course, we got the Raiders with Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, and Chip Kelly, amongst other additions. Ashton Genty. We got Brock Bowers as well. At New England, at Foxborough, at the Patriots, who are 3.5-point favorites. I can't believe those words came out of my mouth. The Patriots, who were awful last year, are 3.5-point favorites at home in week 1. You got Drake May. You got Mike Vrabel jumping into piles. You got a grouped or redone, reworked, rebuilt Patriots offense and really just kind of Patriots team a little bit as well. But the Slop Watch, Chuck, why should people pay attention to this game? What's grabbing your attention with it?
If you're optimistic about Drake May, I think this could be a breakout party, to open the season. Man, this Raiders defense, man, they are thin, so thin,
aren't they?
Yes,
it's like a who's who of who's that.
Yeah, like losing Christian Wilkins after whatever the hell happened over there has really opened up a hole in their front seven. I mean, they traded away Jacorian Bennett to the Eagles to get Thomas Booker, who was like DT5 for the Eagles, and now he's starting. Adam Butler's okay, but him leading off your DT room, it's tough. And then the funny part to me is the linebackers, Landon Robinson, Jermaine Pratt. I'm like, who are you going to cover this year? Like, not a damn soul, bro. Middle of the field, open for days. Because they're, once the ball gets outside the tackle box is when things get a little spooky for them, especially as they get older and they're not the athletes that they used to be. I don't know, man. We've seen Patrick Graham do this for like half a decade now, right? You give him something and he'll come back you give him whatever type of ingredient to come back with something edible. But if he can figure this out, man, put them in a can, because I just don't see where they find the spots to kind of hunker down and play some good defense this year. So I'm not all that high on the Patriots offense yet this year. I think they still got some personnel issues to work through. And also just a lot of belief in Josh McDaniels. Like, man, I don't know. Last time I saw him coach, that did not go well for him. So we'll see what happens on that side of the ball. But I think Drake May is just too talented to not shred this defense. I mean, they don't have anyone outside of Max Crosby, really.
Yeah, we got kind of a Josh McDaniels revenge game here. Didn't even think about that. And we got Tom Brady. Revenge. From the silver and black now. Revenge, yeah. He go figure out. Man, he go visit TV12 Performance or whatever it is. Right. Yeah, TV12 Performance at Foxborough, whatever they built for him over there. No, you nailed it. This could be the Drake May breakout game. Really, also just the Geno Smith potential fireworks show too. Like, you get Geno Smith in the Chip Kelly offense. I mean, I can't say it again. Like, I've talked about 100 times, 100 different versions. But very excited to watch what Chip Kelly is going to trot out there. Curious if they use more 2 tight ends with Bowers and Mayer. They've kind of shied away from that in the preseason. I think Chip Kelly learned his lesson. If anyone remembers the 2015 preseason, I want to say it was when I was with the Falcons, because we played the Eagles week 1 when Chip Kelly was there, and the Eagles shredded everybody in the preseason because everybody's running basic like cover 3 and stuff like that, and they're going tempo, no huddle, just blitzing everybody. I mean, like on offense, just throwing up mash wheels, just torching everybody. I remember they played the Packers, but he kind of showed his whole hand for the preseason, showed exactly what they're going to use. Chip Kelly's got kind of a narrower playbook than most, but then this preseason seemed like he's like, okay, we're not going to show everything. We're not going to show every personnel grouping. Also, the world's most interesting receiver room. I didn't say good, just most interesting receiver room with like Jacoby Myers and Amari Cooper and Bash and Deontay Thornton. We got Ashton Genty. Should be a lot of fun for a top 10 pick running back from Boise State. The O-line's a question mark, but they look better in this preseason. But yeah, like you said, I think it might be the Drake May show. How does that partnership with Josh McDaniels look? I want to see more design runs. Is the O-line improved? This is a pretty good test. You got Max Crosby, so absolutely have to handle him. Maybe going against Will Campbell, see how that looks, but also just how the rest of the Patriots offensive line. This is a nice kind of entering, get their beaks wet going into the season. But also, I know we're not super high on Doug Marrone, off of his recent stops. They have 2 assistant offensive line coaches. First time I've ever seen that. I was looking at I don't know. Does Doug Marrone know how to use a computer? Like, that's
right? He's been doing this for a long time now.
Look at the roster. I've never seen that. 2 assistant offensive line coaches. That many guys. A new one to me.
That you need a coach. What's going on there?
Usually every team's got the O-line coach, assistant O-line coach. That's it. Those are the only guys that touch the O-line, So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting when I was looking at their kind of their coaching roster. I was trying to see how many guys are from Ohio State, if you want me to be honest, because That's Vrabel's whole shtick is everything is through the lens of Ohio State. Every joke is made about you're not as good as Ohio State. You didn't win as many games as we did at Ohio State. It's like, okay, I get it. You love Columbus. I get it.
Cool. Yeah, you guys are committing crimes and doing whatever. That's fine.
I get it. Last little tidbit. Want to see how the Patriots sort their weapons out. Want to see if Travion Henderson makes an impact. Kyle Williams makes an impact. I think Travion Henderson might take a little screen the distance here. Not the distance, but a big play. Look for that. Stephon Diggs says he's got some gas in the tank. And Chisholm, see if he's actually real. Elgin Chisholm, the undrafted rookie that the Patriots have. But I think it's a very good test for both teams without jumping straight into the deep end. They got kind of wade into the waters of the NFL season relatively. So very excited to watch this game. Patriots -3.5 though. Who are you going with?
I'll go with the Patriots. I don't know. The Raiders defense is really tough. I am excited to watch Geno play for sure. You know, he's so much fun. Like even in the preseason, it's almost like
trying some stuff,
right? Like it's almost like he's like, well, I've already been to the bottom of what this career can look like. So while I'm out here, screw it, let's go for it. And it works sometimes. It works more often than it doesn't. You know, so I'm excited for him. Yeah.
He's a high wire act, and that's why he's so much fun to watch. And yeah, like you said, he was throwing some javelins in the preseason. Oh, yeah. He's like, hey, Michael Mayer, go leap and catch for this. Deontay Thornton back shoulder. Check this out. Yeah, yeah, I know. It felt like the dad that's the all-time quarterback in the playground. You know, and he's just like throwing trick shots with the Nerf ball. Like, you know, he's just like, hey, little Johnny, catch this one. What you got over there? All right, here we go. We'll flip pass over there. I'm also going Patriots. Think they cover.
I was about to say, that reminds me, back in high school, I went to high school with Matt Stover's kids, the old Ravens kicker. And he would come out to practice sometimes. It'll just be like, hey, Matt, kick a ball from over there. Kick a ball from over there. Kick one from right in front of the goalpost. Kick one from 50 yards away. And he would do it like he would humor us, but it is funny you can get into situations like that.
Throw it. It was Culpepper. Dante used to always would come around some stuff, and then, like, you know, as a kid, it didn't matter. Like, quarterback accuracy didn't matter. It was how far you can launch that football. And I could honestly see people's brains pop, like little high scorers' brains pop when you see Dante launching a ball 75 yards in the air and going like, like I didn't even know that was physically possible, but that's what you would do. You're like, throw it, Dante. Launching that thing. That's the thing. I was a ball boy for the Vikings teams. This quarterbacks I grew up with. Well, Brad Johnson was the guy I kind of like emulated the most. I knew my skill set, but it was Dante and Gus Frerotte. And if anyone doesn't know who Gus Frerotte is, he played for Washington, bounced around, played for the Vikings a little bit. He could throw it further than Dante, which is saying something. So we do these little contests. You know, I'm in high school, and so I thought that was normal. Oh, yeah, every quarterback, like NFL quarterback, throws it 75 yards in the air, legitimately over 70 yards in the air. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I'm just not that. And then I realized as I got older, like, oh, that wasn't normal. That those guys just have all-time kind of arms that I should never have compared myself to ever. Could have maybe helped the confidence, believe it or not. All right, we'll close this out today. We are going to do a lock of the week. This is, again, a prediction for something we're sure is going to happen, and maybe just a way to talk about a game, but we're going to keep track this record throughout the season. Charles, I'll start with you. For week 1, what is your lock of the week?
I think DK Metcalf will be on the wrong end of a Sauce Gardner interception. I think the Jets match up pretty well with the Steelers offense. We'll see how the offense line's looking, you know, just kind of on paper, like there's a chance they can match up well, but we know Aaron's, he likes his go balls. He likes, you know, to operate quickly. It's opposite of Arthur Smith, you know, on the outside. So DK Metcalf is going to get his chances. We saw how, you know, I guess rejuvenated Sauce Gardner has looked this preseason in terms of like being back engaged with the team in a way that clearly he was not. Like, you don't want to say people are quitting, but when you see Sauce in August versus Sauce in November last year, I'm just saying maybe he wasn't giving his best effort. Little difference. So if he's back on top of his game, Aaron's gonna have to throw to DK because who else is he gonna throw to be honest? So I think there's a chance that Sauce Gardner, actually not a chance, a lock, that Sauce Gardner on the go ball gets an interception on DK Metcalf this weekend.
I love that one. That's a good one. That I'm curious too in that game because Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes, they run a lot of man coverage. So you got Sauce, maybe because who's only usually played on one side, the offensive right. Because what Salah did, he has some Legion of Boom to him. So I'm curious if he travels too. I don't think he did in the preseason, but I'm curious if he travels with DK because, like you said, there's not much else out there. And also, if they do man, I don't really want another Jets corner on DK. I'd rather have Sauce on him. So I like this one a lot. And I think Rodgers is going to maybe test some stuff. Rodgers he's going to want that. He's not going to throw over the middle because he doesn't want those picks. But yeah, no, I think this is a really good one. In the weirdest way, Sauce might out physical DK Metcalf, which is, I think DK has 50 pounds on him, but that's how they both play. All right, my lock of the week. It's an excuse to talk about Monday Night Football, Vikings, Bears. My prediction, my lock. Caleb Williams will throw a touchdown versus the Blitz. I'm not saying win the game or anything like that, but just saying he will throw a touchdown and it will be against a Brian Flores blitz. This is as much of a belief in what maybe that the Bears will show this season in Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson offense, but what Ben Johnson has done against Brian Flores in the past when he was the Lions offensive coordinator. One, I think there's going to be a lot of jumbo personnel or a lot of two tight end looks. I don't know. I don't think they've tried out jumbo in the preseason, but get big and burly, try and road grade the Vikings' funky defense. But against the blitz from 2022 to 2024, the Lions had a 64% success rate against the blitz. So if Brian Flores threw 3 blitzes, the Lions had 2 successful plays. That is crazy good, crazy good. You anything over 50 is awesome. So 64%, 63.6 if you want to get technical, pretty ridiculous. 8.8 yards per play, 0.4 EPA per dropback, 16% explosive pass rate. Anything above 14% is kind of the threshold, but 0.4 EPA per dropback, that's about double of an MVP rate. That's basically what Jared Goff would do against a Brian Flores blitz. Only a 1.1% sack rate that Jared Goff suffered against Brian Flores defenses and blitzes. The league average when Flores would blitz is almost 6% for the other teams. 5.6, including the Lions, almost 6 without the Lions. So they've had some answers. They do some cool, he's done cadence stuff. There's a thing called cheetah, which is when the center grabs the ball and just snaps it so the defense can't get set. They'll do certain protections against these. Look for those some receiver screens. Goff had a lot of success with receiver screens. Look for some dagger concepts, which is a seam with a big dig behind it. Goff really liked those. Caleb's okay at them. They're still working on Caleb throwing over the middle comfortably. Most of his best throws are to the outside. So, but I do think that Ben Johnson will load him with some answers against the Flores. The Lions were 2.77 points per drive against Vikings defenses when Ben Johnson was offensive coordinator. So 3 is outstanding, averaging a field goal. So yeah, he's had some success. So I'm going to go with Caleb Williams, throws a touchdown versus the blitz. And my bonus one, in case you care, in case you want something Friday night to cheer against me for, Patrick Mahomes will not get sacked against the Chargers. I think this is more of a shout out to what this offense is going to be and what this offensive line might be this season. So those are my 2. Friday night, Monday night. What do you think about those, Chuck?
I like that. I like the Mahomes not get sacked one is spicy. I hadn't really thought about that. But, with the offensive line improved, then Pat being Pat, I kind of like that one, actually. I kind of like that one.
And, Chargers are kind of safe. They don't blitz a ton. There's some stuff, but they kind of stay safer. They make you nickel and dime. And yeah, I'm curious. That game's going to be fun because I think we've got some identities trying to get established in that game in Brazil.
The Josh Simmons debut is massive. Yeah. Massive. I'm locked in on that one.
And I am too. Oh, yeah. Josh Simmons against potentially Khalil Mack. Sometimes that'll be a good test for him. Kingsley Suamataia versus Tier Tart. See how that happens? Yeah, I know I know there was a lot of games we could have previewed. That was an included one. So I want to make sure we check the box that we talked about Brazil, for talk about that great AFC West battle in Brazil. But we are closing it out today, Charles, and you and I will be back on Sunday live on YouTube, on the Yahoo Sports channel, online, on social media as well, recapping before Sunday Night Football and reacting to everything that happened in week 1. So make sure you come hang out with us. It happened around 4:30, 5 o'clock time slot, right when Sunday Night Football is about to start. We'll come in, come hang out with us, hang out in the chat, throw us questions, observations, yell at us what lock we got wrong, what lock we maybe got right. All that good stuff should be a ton of fun, even though my lock is on Monday night. So ha ha ha. I am Nate Tice. You can find me on social media at Nate_Tice. That is Charles McDonald. Where can they find you, Chuck? What have you been working on as well?
Oh man, I've been working on too much. I can tell you that. We just dropped all our season preview content in the last few days. Some really good stories. I'm working on 4 verse. We've got the show. Shoot, ain't that enough? I think that's good. So yeah, just stay posted on everything we got going on Yahoo. We're gonna be putting out a ton of content over the next few months.
Yes, we are. Plenty of good football stuff over at Yahoo and on Football 301. So make sure you subscribe to us, follow us, rate us pretty please, and please rate us and maybe leave a comment. I really would appreciate it. I know Charles would. All of us would really appreciate that as we kick off this season. Also, you can watch us on YouTube, the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and rate there. We'd appreciate it there. Thanks to Stone, Madison, and Ingrid behind the scenes for helping us look and sound good. Thank you all for listening. I seriously appreciate it. We made it. It's week 1. It's football. See you guys Sunday night.